Hello and welcome back. And the premise at FM23 Roleplay is that we take a 15-year-old American kid, we give him a 200 potential rating, and we follow him throughout his career. We will not coach any club. We will not interfere by using the in-game editor. Our test subject, Henry Marshall, is now 16 years old and starts for St. Louis City, an expansion MLS team. But can he do better? What we're going to do is we're going to tell his story, and we're going to let what happens in FM23 drive the narrative, and we're just going to provide the background. So we are now at August 8th, as you can see, and the next game scheduled for St. Louis City is not until August 25th. There are only 8 more games left in the season. There they are. And there's only 3 points separating St. Louis City from Seattle, which is the leader both in the Western Conference and in the Supporters' Shield. Even if St. Louis City can't take a trophy, their chances of making the MLS playoffs look very good. Bradley Carnell should be a candidate for Manager of the Year. As a matter of fact, if we go to the social feed here, look at the news, it appears that the Philadelphia Union, which fired Jaap Stam, is looking for a new coach. And the St. Louis City board is happy that Bradley has decided to stay with the club. He has denied any interest in that position at Philadelphia. He's happy with the club ownership. He likes where he is. As for Henry Marshall, well, he's not happy about this two-week gap between games that you really can't exploit. He has to stay in St. Louis. He has to train with the club. He's not going to get any kind of vacation time. Therefore, what he's decided to do is to laser focus on one of the milestones of being a young man. He's going to get his driver's license sometime in this 2-week interim because he's now held his Missouri learner permit long enough to take the driving part of the exam. After that, he'll be given an intermediate license with some restrictions, among other things, like, for example, he won't be able to drive between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. And when he hits 18, he can apply for his unrestricted driver's license. So during these 2 weeks that Henry has no games, the Wynn family, the Wynns, have planned on their son Jonathan, who is Henry's best friend, and Henry to take their driving licensing exams on the same day. Now, the rumors have it that the licensors tend to be fairly strict. It's rare that someone passes on a first try. So Robert Wynn told both the boys, don't be too discouraged if you fail during your first attempt. Besides, if even one of them passes, it's going to make life easier on the entire family in getting the kids from O'Fallon, Missouri to St. Louis, which is about a 30-minute drive. The first week, both Henry and Jonathan took the driving test. Jonathan passed his driving test. Henry didn't. The instructor said that Henry wasn't looking at the side mirror when he was making a turn, and that cost him some points. Now, Henry wasn't happy about failing the driver test, but, that didn't mean that he was depressed about it. However, he did have to endure some joshing from his friend about how, Henry's got all this great coordination as a pro MLS player, and it just kind of let him down, didn't it? But the following week, on August 22nd, 2023, Henry Marshall passed his driving exam. Behind the scenes, Henry's parents had been talking with the Wynns about Henry having a car. Henry had a paycheck now. He could pay for a car on his own. They just didn't want him driving off on a Ford Mustang or something like that, some turbocharged monstrosity. Furthermore, Henry was going to have to pay for his licensing. He's going to pay for insurance out of his own money. It's going to be a big step forward in responsibility. They really just didn't want their son to be ripped off. It was determined that Henry would get a used car. If he made big money someday, he could resell the car and get a better one. And if he didn't, he has a jalopy that'd get him back and forth from practice. So the next Monday, this is after the Houston game. We'll talk about the Houston game later. Henry went through the process of obtaining his new pre-owned vehicle. a 2020 Ford Edge SEL. Now, this vehicle had about 85,000 miles on it, but according to the previous owners, it was primarily driven on the interstate. It was well maintained, it wasn't fancy, and the Winns were a Ford family, and they always bought Ford vehicles. And since Jonathan couldn't afford a car with his own money because he wasn't making any money as a member of the St. Louis Academy team, he would be driving the Ford F-150 when the parents weren't using it. Now, Henry having an older car would keep Jonathan from being too jealous, and the Ford Edge certainly didn't exemplify glamour. And Henry got a little piss-taking from his teammates in showing up to practice in a Ford Edge, even though MLS players, they weren't wealthy European players, far from it. The only players who gave him trouble were the ones who were, earning all the big money, the ones earning over $1 million a year. One of those million-a-year players told him, there are two kinds of football players in this world. The ones that drive minis and the ones that drive Ferraris. So I guess we know which one you are. But on the other hand, Tim Parker, who's the vice captain of St. Louis, he asked Henry about this car and how he got it. And he approved. He said that was a good deal. And, a remark like that from Tim Parker, it's high praise because he's probably one of the most finance-minded players at St. Louis City. He said, if I were you, I would invest in property next because you can always make more cars, but you can never make more dirt. And with that fine piece of advice, let's play through, maybe until the end of the regular season, if not sooner. And we are back. And right now, in game, we're at September the 28th, getting very, very close, just 2 games away from the end of the regular MLS season. And this is the very, very, very bottom of the social feed. So this is a great place to kind of pick up here. And some news that we can't see on the social feed. Mark Hughes left Bradford City in League One. He takes over the Philadelphia Union job. And there's been some drama in the St. Louis press as Rasmus Alm, so he's sort of a bench wingman. He's been arguing with the coach over lack of playing time. So that kind of got the press a little bit interested in what was going on. But here's the game from August 25th. This was a 2-0 win over Houston. Henry had a great game in that one. He had a 7.0. Klaus ended up scoring both goals. He was the player of the match. And St. Louis, at least very briefly, went to number 1 in the Western Conference. And this is a time when we can't see it because I don't want to spoil anything here, but there was some interest in having Henry move to another team. His agent called him, Hunter Alvarez, and said that both Atlanta United and the LA Galaxy were interested in picking him up. So he had that going on. And Henry was thinking, wow, what is it? We have 3 teams in 3 years, possibly. But anyway, definitely Atlanta and LA Galaxy had some major interest in him. Josh Wolf, as you can see here, was fired by Austin FC. FC was in 11th place at the time, and they had lost 3 of the last 5 games this week. Jason Kreis would scroll up here. They eventually hired him as coach. Then we take it back to about September 3rd, and this is a game against LAFC. St. Louis had fallen number 2 at this point, and that was a disappointing collapse. It was a 2-1 loss. And in this game, let's see, Long scored a goal. Not Long. It was, let me find him here. I don't know why it says Long there. Maybe I'm just hallucinating. But Kevin Hoyos, the Long had the assist. Hoyos is the person who had 2 goals in the 48th and the 50th minute. Henry's performance was about a 6-8. And there was a press conference after that game. It says Carnell refusing to panic, and he talked to a lot of people at that press conference. Washington Post, Fox Sports, SoccerNet, you know, and Fox Sports. Fox Sports showed up twice, and he basically said, "I don't think we need to panic." So that was the big headline: St. Louis, we don't need to panic. By the way, the League's Cup finished. There's no little graphic here, but Santos Laguna beat America 2-0. It was an all Mexican League's Cup final, so Mexico continues to hold on to the League's Cup. Montreal finished in third place in that one. We will go up to the match against Austin at home. They were favorites for this Austin clash here, but as it turns out, Marshall suffers an injury. 3 weeks, another twisted ankle. And the minute he suffered this injury, all the interest from the Galaxy and from Atlanta United just disappeared. So they were hoping they could hold on without him. Well, maybe not so. It was a 1-0 loss at home. Succession of fouls, no rhythm. Let's look at the St. Louis's fouling here. 15 fouls. Well, Boston had a lot of fouls too. There's Marshall going down the 18th minute. He was very, very unhappy about that because he missed this next big game against Real Salt Lake. Real Salt Lake at the time, number 1 in the Western Conference. St. Louis really felt that if they had any chance of taking the title, they had to win this game. And we see Robin Fraser, he was getting fired by Colorado. Colorado was in 13th place at the time. Instead, it was St. Louis. They won the game 1-0 without Marshall. And Berkey, a good friend, Roman Berkey, he had 8.1. He was the player of the game. Carranza with the goal in the 23rd minute. And then it was going to be a few away games here. First, they had to go on the road to face Chicago, who was 4th in the Eastern Conference at the time. And then disaster. Berkey is going to be out for 3 weeks. He had a twisted ankle in training. And, it just seemed to be like then John Bell, he got injured, 2 weeks, damage. So all of a sudden, everybody started falling apart. They managed to hold out in that St. Louis game. It's a 1-1 draw. Looks pretty even here. But even with the draw, this is where St. Louis has finally secures a playoff spot. So the 27th, they're driving to Columbus. Marshall's not there. Berkey's not there. Columbus is 15th in the East, and they blow it 2-0. Columbus just makes it look easy. Part of the problem, well, not a lot in goal here. Lunt, 6-1. Pereira, 5-8 in defense. They give up 2 goals by Zelarayan. And right now, St. Louis is not looking good. So, what do we have here? Our short list. There's Marshall. But it looks like Atlanta has picked up on him again. They are now back in the hunt to get him, as he is out for about 6 to 12 days. So hopefully he'll be ready in time for the playoffs during this game. Let's go back to our social. Let's go back to the short list again. St. Louis City, and see the schedule here. So 2 more games left in the season. The last away game against New York City, home against the New York Red Bulls. We'll just go ahead and play through those games here. St. Louis in 4th. They'd like to keep, some kind of home field advantage, but because they figure they're going to need it. They're 4 games away from Real Salt Lake, so winning the Western Conference, that is just out of their hands right now. Next game will be against New York City. See what's going on as we crawl over calendar and make it to hopefully October. St. Louis facing New York City there. New York City 8th. St. Louis hanging on at 4th, but they don't have Roman Burki. They don't have John Bell. Marshall is doubtful with a twisted ankle. He's now gone into the orange. He should be 4 to 9 days away. Another defeat, 1-0. Apparently, only 5 shots at goal, only 1 on target. One had a sort of an okay game. Stroud, not doing that well. Let's see what it looks like in the Western Conference. St. Louis and Houston are now tied for the 4th place slot. Galaxy have I think they've locked it up now. I don't think they can be caught. Only Miami has secured it. Look how tight it is up here in the East. So there's one more game left, and that game will be against the Red Bulls in the 7th. Any more drama there? Will St. Louis keep their 4th place spot? And we'll figure out if anybody's been named the USA team in a few seconds here. Let's get back to that game. One 0. Well, it looks like New York City got reduced to 10 men. Red card in the 43rd minute. That helped them hang on to a 1-0 lead. I mean, Berkey was back. He had a 7-7 in goal. There's Najabullah Blom. So, it looks like Berkey will be healthy enough to play in the playoffs. Henry's still injured. And Galaxy has come back. They're going to pick him up here. What are our standings? St. Louis City, Houston still has a game to play, but they probably won't catch up. To look at the schedule, see if we can get them through to the very end here. Finish playing on the 8th. That should get us all the games done. Team secure playoff spots. And now let's see who has won everything. Team secure playoff spots: Cincinnati, New York City Football Club, Orlando City. Looks like Inter Miami is going to win the Supporters Shield. Here are our final results. Chicago Fire make it to 2nd in Inter Miami. However, they get the edge. St. Louis City finishes 6th, which is pretty damn good, I'd say. And we take a look at the final. Inter Miami, Chicago Fire, Orlando City, Nashville, Toronto, Cincinnati, New York City Football Club squeezes past Atlanta United, Real Salt Lake, Seattle, Jose, St. Louis City, Houston, Austin, and the Galaxy. And if I'm right, do we have it? Is the game on the schedule? Unknown team in the MLS Western Conference. I'm thinking that it's going to be Houston. And we are back, and just want to clear a few things before we head on out of here. Colorado hired Nick Cushing as their coach. Charlotte FC, they win their second U.S. Open Cup in a row. They beat Chicago 2-1 to take the trophy again. St. Louis City will get Houston in the MLS Western Conference. Just as I thought, the winner of that bracket will go ahead and they will meet Real Salt Lake in the semifinals. Hopefully, a big crowd there. Velkio Paunovic has been fired by the LA Football Club. 12th place finish, he was doomed here. Some international awards: Man City's Bernardo Silva, he wins the Ballon d'Or. Mbappe's in second. Eric Haaland, he is in third place. The Copa Trophy, it is Bukayo Saka. He wins that one. Pedri is second. Gabriel Martinelli, Arsenal in third place. And finally, the Yashin Trophy. AC Milan's Mike Magnan picks that one up. Gianluigi Donnarumma for PSG in second. Aaron Ramsdale for Arsenal in third. Anyway, we've set it up. St. Louis, in their very first year as an MLS team, have made it to the playoffs. Sixth in the Supporter Shield standings. They will play Houston at home and hopefully move forward. Will Henry Marshall get a MLS Cup in his very first full year as a professional at 16 years old? Well, there's only one way to find out, is to come and visit for the next installment. Anyway, it's the end of this episode. If you like what you hear or see, please leave a comment or please hit the like and or subscribe button. Until next time.